All right, I've got a short little self-help book for you today, The 1 Minute Manager. You may have heard of it. It became a series. There's 1 Minute Teacher and 1 Minute I don't know what else. But it all started with 1 Minute Manager. It's by Kenneth Blanchard and Spencer Johnson. And it's one of those books that, it says at the top, the Runaway National Bestseller, 12-month on the New York Times bestseller list. It is a very simple concept, and it incorporates a couple different relationship principles that often get lost, especially in the corporate world, but frankly they get lost at home. And the same kind of problems that he's talking about that happen with managers happen with moms and dads too. They happen with teachers, and they happen with in really pretty much any leadership role where your job is to help motivate people to do good things. You run into problems in getting them motivated and getting them to follow through on what they commit to do. And this really does have some good solid answers that are based on some traits of human nature and some good relationship principles. And so that's why it works. It really does work if you do it right. It's one of those books that is kind of cheesy and painful to read. I'll give you the first. It starts out, once there was a bright young man who was looking for an effective manager. He wanted to work for one, he wanted to become one. His search had taken him over many years to the far corners of the world. He had been in small towns and in capitals of powerful nations. So it's cheesy, and it's the kind of thing where you see that there's a lot of pages with hardly any text, or there's a couple, the huge margins, which is fantastic for us bookmarkers. And even then, they only got the book to 100 pages, so there's really like maybe 50 pages of text. You really can read it in an evening in a good solid hour or two, even if you're marking it well, which you should do. And of course, I read this years ago, read it several times and applied some of it and really liked it. And so I did what I tell everybody do in my How to Mark a Book. I did a book summary in the back. Really quick overview, and I was able to review it and do this post. So check out How to Mark a Book in our video trainings because it works, people. Anyway, this is a little story of a guy that goes, and he's got this manager, and the manager really knows what he's doing, and so he teaches him how to do this. He does it with him. And so some of the key things that they want you to remember is, number one, that people who feel good about themselves produce results. And production is quality and quantity. So we want people who feel good about themselves, and we need to focus on them as part of the process of getting things done. You want the dishes done, or you want the homework assignment turned in, or you want them to do whatever web work they've committed to or turn in their reports. And they just aren't doing it. And you don't want to be a creep and like fire them or just go off on your child, but you get really frustrated because you're not sure how else to handle this bad situation where you thought that, that they knew what they were supposed to do and then they just didn't do it, and why aren't they doing it, and what is their problem? And you see them as the enemy, and you see them as the bad guy, and then they take on the role of the victim, and then everything breaks down and becomes horrible. So that's what we don't want to have happen in our interactions with other people when we need to motivate them to do things. And this really is a great little help for getting that done. So the first thing that you do, there's 3 1-minute things you do. And the first one is the 1-minute goal setting. Now it's probably going to take more than 1 minute, but there's some specific parameters, and it is a great book from the standpoint that it gives you bullet lists, and then it gives you a numbered list of some suggestions of how to go about doing each of the parts, and it's really helpful for that reason. And so then it talks about how you have to identify very clearly what the expectation is. Now, I knew a mom who wanted her kids to do better housework, and I've still not done this, but I still think about it sometimes and wonder if it might be a good idea every once in a while when we're having a problem. But she would clean a room with a child until it was immaculate, and then she would take pictures of it and print those off and post them in the room. So there was a visual reference point for the child on what the expectation was, and when they had completed the job correctly, they would know it because the room would look like the pictures. Those are the kinds of things that this 1-minute goal is encouraging you to do. They say under 250 words, and you write out with them, and you approve it, and you both see this goal setting that this individual has done of what it is that they're going to do. It's the same kind of concept as sometimes in certain homeschool circles you'll hear about parents who have youth or whatever, and they'll sign contracts with their youth about what they're going to do educationally. Or you'll hear of teachers who do the same kind of things with their students. Like we were watching Stand and Deliver the other night, and it was the same kind of concept that he used this principle in the classroom. He set a clear expectation. He told the kids that they could not be in his class unless they signed a big long contract that said that they were going to be there before school and after school and take his class 2 periods and come on Saturday. And then they were going to have the opportunity to take the AP exam and get all this college credit at the calculus level. And it was fantastic, and they rose to the challenge. And everybody was super clear on what the expectations were, and so the performance was phenomenal. So you do this 1-minute goal setting, and you help them, and you affirm them, and you tell them you know they can do it, and they participate in the process of setting the goal, and it's this wonderful experience. And then 2 is the 1-minute praisings, where because you both know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, you watch them. You silently watch. You know, if you're in an office setting, then you walk by their desk and you watch from afar, whatever it is, until you find them doing it right. You keep records of what they're doing so that you're not, and this again, this is where I get frustrated with things like the typical affirmations that people do, because they're just so ethereal and they're disconnected from real life. This is an exercise that's very connected with real life and real behavior. There's a clear expectation: you will tie your shoes, you will eat the entire bowl of cereal, whatever it is, and then you watch, and when they do it, you can praise them based on actual real performance. And then there's no feeling inside of them of like, I don't deserve this praise, or this isn't really who I am, or this doesn't really work. They actually can internalize that compliment, and it will build their self-image and their self-confidence in a realistic manner. So you catch them doing it right, and when you go to praise them, this is the second thing, you do this 1-minute praising. You do it quickly, you go directly to them, you look them in the eye and touch them, and tell them that what they did, that you specifically liked, and how it made you feel when they did it. And you're sincere, and you're very specific. And it's tied into this goal and this clear expectation that you've made together. And it's phenomenal how you both feel. They'll just get a smile on their face and feel incredible inside because you noticed that they were doing something right. And it's so hard. If you're a parent watching this, okay, it is hard as a parent to always do this, because especially if you have multiple children like me, they're running all over the place, and like, did I notice that you were doing something right? I don't know. So if you can get something clear and specific that you're looking for, and then look for it and then capture it, then this will build your relationship. It does all kinds of other things that build them and build you and build a relationship and get things done, all that kind of stuff. But specifically to this goal set, it's really beneficial. And then you also, in order to keep course correction going, you don't do the third part, which is the 1-minute reprimand. You don't do the 1-minute reprimand until you've done the 1-minute praising. You want to catch them doing something right before you catch them doing something wrong, but it's like that little course correction. People always give the analogy of the pilot who's got to keep course correcting to get to where he's going. It's the same kind of idea. You watch them and you catch them when they're doing something you don't like or that wasn't along with the goal set, when you feel it needs to happen. Not like you're trying to reprimand them, but if they just are not doing the thing that they committed to, then you do the same thing. You focus on one specific behavior, and you go to them, you say, now this is what was expected, and you didn't reach the expectation. This was the behavior that you did that wasn't correct, that wasn't in line with our goal. You keep it very short, and you don't attack their character. It's not about them as a person, it's about the behavior, and the behavior wasn't right. And you look them in the eye, and you're clear and specific, and then you let it go. And then they get to make a choice about course correction, about fixing their behavior. So this is really helpful for virtually anybody, because seems like we all are in a position in one place or another, whether we volunteer somewhere, or we're in a certain career, or we're teaching or parenting or whatever we're doing, that we need to lead and motivate individuals. And this is a great help. It really is. It will teach you some characteristics of goal setting, which I think is so critical, because goal setting is something we all talk about and don't know how to do right. And then it will show you how to help people get motivated and how to build the relationship and keep them on course in a really good way. Just ignore the cheesy dialogue and ignore how it's written. It's effective because of the concepts and the principles that it's built on, not because they're great writers, because they're not really super fantastic writers. But it's, again, The 1 Minute Manager, Kenneth Blanchard and Spencer Johnson. I hope that's been helpful. Pass it on if it was. See you next time.